What's up, you guys? I am so excited for this little project. You're just gonna need a couple things, a couple little bottles or jars or whatever you can find. And I just dropped the other two things, so 1 second. All right, so the next thing you're gonna need, since I'm showing you two different ways to do this, you either will need one of these things or both if you want to try both ways. This is just some multi-surface acrylic paint. It's less than $1 at Walmart for this. So that is one method I'm going to show you. The other way is with an oil paint pen. Sharpie makes these, and there's some other brands that make them too. You can get them at pretty much any craft store. I'll try to remember to put a link below where you can buy these if you want. And I just chose black, but you can use any color that you like. And yeah, let's get started. So I think first, since it's gonna be a little quicker, I'll just show you the Sharpie method. Put this one jar down. So I'm just take this little jar, and I like this because I got this paper plate here. This one can sit like this, or it can sit like this. Super cute. I got this at a local craft store called Craft Warehouse. Lots of cool stuff there. And then with the oil paint pens, they have, you can probably hear, they have a shaker in there. So you want to shake it up. And when they're brand new, you need to prime them. When you first get them, the tip is white, and you need to press down to get the paint flowing. So when I'm going to use these when they've been like put away for a while, I just like to give it a couple pumps, and then I'll write a little bit just to make sure that the paint is flowing and just get it started. And all you have to do is just write whatever it is you want to put on here. You could put, I'm just going to say, let's take one from Nightmare Before Christmas, and we'll go with Deadly Nightshade. So I'm just going to carefully write that. You know what? I decided I don't like that. I don't really have enough room, and the letters are all kind of smushed together. So I will show you how to take this off if you make a mistake or you don't like what happened. Okay, if you screw up, all you need to do is just get a little rubbing alcohol and paper towel, or you can just use an alcohol swab if you have those, and it'll wipe off. You might have to give it a little scrub, a couple passes, but it'll come right off, no problem. So I didn't have enough room for Deadly Nightshade, so maybe I'll just write poison on it. That's easy enough, right? Still creepy. Shorter word. There, that looks better. And sometimes it'll come out a little bit streaky with these pens, so you might have to go over it a couple of times. If that's the case, like it did, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It did come out a little streaky, like on the O, you can kind of see. So I'm going to go over it again, but I want to let it dry on there, otherwise it's just going to smear when I go over it again with the pen. So I'm just going to set this aside while that dries, and I'll show you the next method. Okay, so I squirted a little bit of my multi-surface paint out onto a paper plate. It's just going to be my little palette, and I'm obsessed with Alice in Wonderland, so I think on here I'm going to write Drink Me. So just very carefully, with a really fine brush, I'm gonna write "Drink Me." And I'm dipping back into my paint for every letter so that it's bold and easy to read. Take your time when you're writing with a paintbrush, especially on a curved surface, because it's very easy to have it come out shaky or just screw up in general. It does take some practice. Believe me, when I first started doing this kind of thing, I hated it. I thought my handwriting always looked terrible when I did something like this, and I did not like it at all. But with practice, I've gotten better, it looks better, and I'm happy with it. Now this is another one where you really have to do this at least 2, maybe even more times. You have to go over it several times. But again, you have to let it completely dry. And the acrylic paint takes quite a bit longer to dry than the oil paint pen does. So I'm just going to set it aside. You don't have to worry about like covering up this paint or anything. I'm actually going to let that sit out too, because as the paint dries, it'll thicken a little bit, and then you can actually use fewer coats if you use that like thickened paint for the next coat. Sometimes when I've been using these multi-surface paints as well, rather than just going over something again and again, I'll actually squirt out whatever colors it is that I want to use and let them sit for like an hour, and then I'll come and work on my project. And I just tend to have to do less coats that way because I'm working with a thicker paint. But again, this is a super cheap option. The oil paint pens can be a little spendy. So I'm just gonna let these dry for a little bit and then do a couple more coats, and we'll be back for the next step. Okay, so I went over my lettering on my poison bottle with my oil paint pen one more time. I'm happy with how it looks. So I'm going to go on to the next step, and you're actually going to bake this. And essentially what that does is going to cure that paint. So it's really hard, it's really on there, almost like a glaze on pottery. And it'll work with ceramic or metal or glass. You just want to make sure that you take any labels off. You don't want to have the lid on, especially if it's like a cork stopper thing. Just stick it in the oven as is. And it's very important that you put it in the oven while the oven is preheating. You want the temperature of the glass to rise slowly, because if it goes up too fast, you can end up breaking your glass. So you just set your oven to 350, put your item in there as it's preheating. Once the temperature gets to 350, then you leave it in there for half an hour. And after half an hour, you turn the oven off and you let your piece cool down while it's still in the oven. Because again, you want that temperature to come back down very slowly, otherwise you're going to break it. So usually what I do when I'm doing a project like this with my oil paint pens is I just put it in there, let it get hot before I go to bed, and then right when I'm going to bed, I can turn the oven off and just let it cool overnight. That way I know it's definitely room temperature by the time I get up in the morning, and I'm not going to have any worries about temperature with these at all. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, guys, it's the next day. Excuse my makeupless face. I've got some sort of weird rash happening. I don't know what that's about, but I didn't want to put makeup on it. Anyway, so I have baked my poison jar and I allowed my drink me jar just to sit overnight. They're plenty dry, good for the next step. Now, if I was using one of these techniques on something that was going to be handled a lot, like a coffee cup, or I used the multi-surface paint to paint some piggy banks for some little kids that I know, I would definitely clear coat this with something just to protect it. Um, you could use Mod Podge, you could use a clear spray paint. There's lots of different options that would work, but I'm not going to do that with these because I really don't anticipate them just being manhandled a lot, so they should be pretty safe. Um, but we will do projects in the future where I'm definitely going to want to clear coat them, so I will go through that process at a later date when we get to those. But for now, I'm just going to fill them up, and I'm going to mix up my colored water in this clear jar just so I can kind of show you the process. Normally, I'd probably just use like a solo cup or something, but I want you guys just to be able to see. So I think for my poison jar, I'm gonna go for like kind of a lime green, like a bright yellowy green. So let me just open my green food coloring here, maybe. There we go. And the reason I'm not mixing it up in the little jar first is because I might have to play around with the proportions of the dye to get exactly what I'm going for. And so I don't want to have to like, maybe restart a whole bunch of times and if I'm not getting it right in the jar, and like if I have to start over a whole bunch, then I'm just like wasting all that dye in that water. This way I can mix it up. I'm just using a popsicle stick to stir. I can mix it up like this. Once I get the color I'm going for, even if I have to, add a little more dye or dilute it with a little bit of water, eventually I'll get there and then I'm good to go. And hopefully I don't have to start over a whole bunch. Now, the gel food coloring, you can maybe see in here. See, yeah, there's like chunks of it left. It takes a little while to dissolve in just plain water. That's okay. You can speed this along by doing hot water, or even just warm water will work. I just didn't think to do that until right before now. I think I'm going to add a little more yellow, because this is just pretty standard green right now. So just keep going like this until you get to a color that you like. It's probably going to take me a little while to stir all this up and play around with it till I get to a color I'm happy with. So I'm just going to pause the recording right now and come back and show you the finished product. Okay, so this is the final product that I ended up with. It's showing up a lot more green on camera, but it is more yellow, like a cool acid green in real life. So that's the color that I was going for. And if you are paranoid about bacteria, kind of like I am, you can add a little bit of rubbing alcohol to that, and that will just make sure that you're not gonna get any nasty, funky stuff growing in there. Now, If you have little kids who are around the house that you're worried might get into this and can get something to drink, don't put the alcohol in there. Just leave it with the water and the food coloring. That's non-toxic, so if they drink it, they'll be fine. So now I'm going to mix up my water for my drink me jar, and this time I want to go for purple. Purple is my favorite color, and I feel like it's a good Alice in Wonderland type color. So I'm just squirting in some red and blue food coloring into my water. This time I did use warm water. I thought it through a little bit more. And ooh, that's dark. That's real dark. That looks black. Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna dilute it with some water. And I'm gonna add some more red. Hopefully, helps if I take the lid off the red. Hopefully that will help. I don't know, I might just end up with black here. If I was mixing up frosting and trying to make purple frosting, I probably would have succeeded here, but this is just black. So that's not gonna work, I think, because you're not gonna be able to read what the jar says if it's black on black. So I have just some water in a solo cup here. I'm just gonna do blue. Blue is very Alice in Wonderland, obviously, because her dress is blue. So, you know what? Sometimes things don't work out like you hoped, and you just go with your plan B. That's fine. No big deal. I wish you guys could see it, but it's a solo cup, so you'll just have to wait and see when I'm done. So again, it's going to take me a little while to mix up all the little chunks of food coloring and get it to a shade that I like. So I'm going to pause again and show you the final product. And here is my drink me jar with my blue water. Yay! So like I said again, this blue was plan B, but sometimes that happens. You gotta just roll with the punches when you're experimenting. So I hope you guys liked this little tutorial. I love these so much. The laundry room in my house is decorated Halloweeny 365 days a year. So these are just gonna live in the laundry room at my house. I think that's really fun and cool, and I'm so happy with my little jars. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with this, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can check out links for Chloe's Hope down below to find out what we're all about. And don't forget to follow our Instagram, which will be linked below. I'll see you guys later. Bye.